that you've got a lot on your mind. Thank you for being here for this information session about the application process for Wilson Grants in the Arts. Special thanks to my wonderful colleagues for helping organize and advertise and lead the way and give you advice tonight, and for being here as well. Most of you already know the faculty, and you can see them here, but the ones I can see, Catherine Hollyfield, and Katie Swikel-Brockman and Allison Flanagan have all been a tremendous help. Katie Swikel-Brockman, you can see the exhibit on the Wilson Grants in the Arts. They're in the gallery of the Davis Building, and they'll be up there until November 3rd. I can't see the 3 because it's covered by people. And I'll get her to talk a little bit about that later. Most of you are already aware that the Wilson Grants offer amazing summer opportunities for travel and intensive study. From these experiences, our students grow as artists, broadening and deepening their understanding of the arts, themselves, and the world around them. We hope, and this is also the hope of the Wilsons, that they bring that new knowledge back to campus and help enrich our educational experience in our classes. Tonight, we want to start the conversation about how to choose a program that's right for your son, or for you, for your son, and how to start the application process. At this point, I'd like to turn things over to Catherine Hollyfield, and she'll talk to you a little bit about the application process.
Yes, thank you. So if you are looking for the application, you will find the application on the MBA website under Academics, Wilson Grants, and then the Visual and Performing Arts. You will see a download button that's 2024 Wilson Visual and Performing Arts application. It is still at the moment saying 2023, but it will be updated by the time we get back from fall break. The deadline for the application is January 8th. That is the Monday we come back from winter break. And students, what you will need to do is you will want to write a statement about why you would like to do the program that you'd like to do. And you'll need to get your GPA and a signature of recommending you for the program. So go to your current teacher and have them recommend, sign off on that application. There is a list that all of us have of programs that you can look at that students have gone to in the past. However, there are many other programs, and I think we would all agree that we encourage you to look for programs that you might want to possibly explore. You're not limited to the programs that we have had prior experience with. Is there anything else I'm missing, art teachers?
The cultural history trip program, if you look at the bottom of that list, is a separate tab to apply for that one, and it's a different grant opportunity, and you can apply for both.
Do you want to talk about that now, Katie, or do you want to wait and tell them a little bit about the trip, and then we'll go into hearing from students about their experiences?
Well, there's a lovely slide there, so I'll speak on it now. The cultural history trip is a trip to Boston, New York, and Philadelphia. The sequence we visit changes depending on what we're trying to see in terms of cultural activities and performances. We do a lot of museums, theater, musicals, plays, and then we also do historical sites. So the picture on the far left is in front of Massachusetts State House. The picture in the middle is from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the picture on the far right is from the Tenement Museum, which is on the Lower East Side in New York. The trip sponsored by the Wilson family is fully funded for travel and excursions and lodging. The only thing the students pay for is their food and any like cool stuff they bring home. But it's a lot of fun, and we have a few students who are going to speak to their experience on that trip. It's about a 9-day trip, usually in the middle to end of June. We haven't picked the exact dates yet. We need to see what performances are coming to town.
Thank you. Alexander, if you're here, or Billy, you want to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll move into grants in the different art areas, and I'll get the teachers to introduce the students that participated in those.
Yeah, so I was a student who went on the Wilson Cultural History trip, and I thought that 3 things really jumped out to me as my favorite parts. One was the Met. I felt like it was really cool to see. There's so much diverse art. There's so much diversity in the art. You could see a lot. Personally, my favorite painting was Washington crossing the Delaware. I like the historical paintings. And then on Broadway, we saw The Life of Pi, which was really cool. They had a lot of really good ways to tell the story that were interesting that I haven't seen before. And then the third thing that really jumped out for me was when we walked around Boston. Like you could it was cool to just see stuff that you learned about in history class. Like I remember we walked past where the Boston Tea Party happened and stuff like that.
Thanks, Billy. Alexander, are you there? No.
Should we go on maybe to hear from Charlie Kilburn?
Yes, that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Billy.
So Charlie, if you would like to tell us about your experience at Anderson Ranch, and we would love to hear about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys hear me? Just checking. Okay, perfect. So I went out to Anderson Ranch, which is an art institute in Snowmass, Colorado, and it was right in the mountains. So it's beautiful. And I didn't really have a lot of expectations. I was definitely stepping out of my comfort zone, and I didn't know what to expect. And so when I got there, I went with my friend Frank Johns. So that was a big help. And so when I got there, I was actually the youngest one in the class. The class was for all ages, but I ended up being the youngest one. There was me, so I was 16 at the time, and then there was probably 1 or 2 people in their 60s or so. So a wide range of people, a lot of college students. And I really just the class was for abstract architecture. So a field I had not studied at MBA. I wanted to do something that the MBA art program didn't necessarily cover, to learn as much as I could. And it was really fun. There was it's just really nice facilities over there. The food was great. I learned how to do a lot of things, how to use a bunch of power tools such as table saws, band saws, and probably the most memorable part of it was I got to learn how to weld, which was something I'd never would have thought I would know how to do, but now I do. So that was a blast. We stayed, and the class was 9 to 5 every day. So I had a lot of free time too. So in Snowmass, there was actually a surprising amount of things to do. One night we went to the Snowmass Rodeo, which happens every Wednesday night, and that was a blast. It's just such a fun and vibrant spot. It's pretty calm in the summer though, as you guys might expect, but it was beautiful. And I was with my friend Frank along the way, and I made a pretty cool sculpture of a chessboard that is in the exhibition at MBA. So yeah, it was really cool, really fun experience.
That's great. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask Charlie at this point?
Thank you, Charlie.
That was great. We can go back to them if you want.
Is Edwin here to talk about music, about the music program he was on?
Yes, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, great.
Okay, so I did it was like a jazz workshop at Stanford University. And some highlights of that. I got to actually like visit Stanford's campus. I got an official tour, and they were really like laid back about needing to miss class for like that one day. But the actual like classes involved like combos, which was like so I play the violin, so that's like working with people who play like band instruments. And so there was that group, and then you also had a group of other people who were playing like your same instrument, so like violin, cello. And that was really cool because we were working with someone named Victor Lynn. He's like one of the best like jazz violin players in the world. And so yeah, we actually got to perform alongside him. And I mean, he really like saw music like in a completely different way. He was like, you hear something, you sing it, you play it. So it's like really just having fun with it rather than like trying to break everything down. And like yeah, so basically just have fun with what you're playing. And yeah, that way of looking at it just kind of changed the way I see like music. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Edwin. That's great. Edwin reminded me of something that's come up before in these meetings, and that is the programs that are on college campuses are an awesome opportunity for you to explore that campus, for one. Also, if
Right.
it's a school that you end up becoming interested in, these programs on these college campuses are also recruiting tools on the part of the school. So they're getting to know you at the same time you're getting to know them, both of which are very, productive and helpful. And you're getting contact points. This is something I learned when my kids went through the college process. If you're visiting a school, then there many schools have a contact sort of score based on how often you've emailed or visited or participated in something on campus. So you're both being recruited and you're sort of being noticed by the school when you go into these programs. So it of course you want to choose a program that is offering exactly what you want to explore, especially if it's something new that you haven't gotten to go deeply in so far, something that's a little bit more intensive. But it's also, I mean, you're also looking at schools when you're there, if the program is on a college campus, and getting a feel for what life on that campus is like, which is great.
I
Kelly
think
had a question in the chat of what kind of experience is needed to be able to apply.
Is this for me?
Yeah, no, who wants to field it? Or is it specifically for Edwin, or is it for everybody? Or for the general, is it about the Wilson grants, or is it specifically about Edwin's program?
General question.
Okay, good. Well, usually it involves a participation in the arts department already, in one of the arts, in either visual arts or music or theater, because you're going to have a teacher who's going to recommend you for the grant. Most of the grants are, I don't know how I describe it exactly. I mean, many of the grants are sophomore and above, but is everybody, Catherine, is everyone in the arts department sophomore or higher? Because if you were applying for as a freshman, you're really technically applying as an 8th grader, correct? Am I right about that?
we have rising sophomores who will apply in January. But those who are in 8th grade now, rising freshmen, will apply through the junior school program, the Junior School Wilson program. And there are arts programs that they have that they underwrite.
And then
Katie,
for
would you talk a little bit about the expectation too, if you do participate, that you will continue your arts education at MBA?
Yeah, so one of the things with the Wilson family, with them sponsoring these endeavors for students, is that the students are then bringing their experiences back to MBA's campus and sharing those both with their peers and with the department. So the expectation is that students will continue in that chosen visual performing arts realm the next calendar year. So when they're applying for a grant, you're also assuring that you're going to be enrolled in theater class or music or visual art. For the Wilson Cultural History trip, it means you're involved in one of those fields, or you're in AP Art History. And the Wilson Cultural History trip is targeted more towards rising juniors and seniors, but rising sophomores may apply. They have to be in good academic standing with a track record of dedication and willingness to really dive into a breadth of experiences. And Alexander just joined the call, was able to join the call, and if he wants to share a few insights.
Yeah, that'd be great. Alexander, can you tell us about your experience on the cultural history trip?
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Wilson Cultural History trip for me, just in regards to my background, I first had done Art 1 and Art 2, and had this art interest, but didn't really know my passions and how I could apply it into, I guess, the classroom, and me signing up for AP Art 3 this year. And one thing, by going on this trip to Boston, New York, and Philadelphia, it was really an amazing experience to see up close art pieces that maybe dream of, quite frankly, but also art pieces that oh, I've seen this, I don't really know about it. And so one example of this was Miss Swyka's interest in Mark Rothko, who I knew nothing about, but she had this oh my God, this is one of my favorite artists, and like to see her reaction and her interest and love for this one artist was really amazing to see, and her tell this story and his story about how his artwork affected her. That was one thing that touched me. And another thing in regards to me was I didn't really understand like Jackson Pollock's like splatter painting or Van Gogh's deep techniques, but to see those in person and to read those little descriptions, and like I said earlier today, or earlier this week, to be 5 feet away from those paintings, it really makes you kind of it creates a guide within yourself to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm inspired and I'm motivated. And I'm going to go back and implement this in my artwork. Probably not to that level, but it really is an amazing experience. And I got to hang out with people that, like Billy, that I didn't know at all before the trip, and became close with, as well as other people like Mitchell in my grade. So it was just an awesome experience to try, soul food, go to Harlem, learn about history, especially African American history, which Dr. Fuller talked about, and then also the artwork in major cities. So just a really awesome and fun experience, especially during the summer.
Great. Thanks, Alexander. Glad you could join us. So I think it's a good time to see questions you have about the process or about how you choose a program before we finish up. So let us know if you have questions. Just unmute and ask away.
All right, I've got a question. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
All right, I'm muting myself.
So a question just related to, and I haven't looked on the website at all, but I know you said that there were, some programs there, and then there was, the opportunity to explore other things, or perhaps, maybe even come up with your own. I was just wanted to see if you could elaborate on what the options are and kind of how you go about doing that. And does that make sense?
Sure. Anyone please add in. You look to the interest that your student has, that your child has, and what they are interested in pursuing further. And specifically, if it's something that we don't go in too intensely, but that they are definitely excited by, whether it's architecture or working in clay or whatever it happens to be. What would you guys add?
I mean, we have a list that we direct our students to. That's where we ask them to begin. These are all experiences that we have had prior students attend programs of. And but then if you know something comes up, or they, like Dr. Fuller is saying, they have a particular interest in, go start researching where the best programs for that particular technique is. I mean, that's how we've found Anderson Ranch, and that's really how we found all of these programs is
So sorry, just to interrupt, but I'm thinking specifically around music, and what I'm seeing here looks largely
yes,
arts
this is
based.
the visual arts, but the music department has a list as well.
Okay, great.
We all have lists of, especially the programs that people have participated in the past. And the other factor that will happen once you decided, you've sort of zeroed in on the kind of program that that your son wants to participate in, then you're going to start looking at your own calendar and the calendar for those programs and figure out which really works with your summer. And that we have those changes happening all the time, and you can apply for a grant based on the one you think you're the most interested in right now. And if that for some reason doesn't work out, I mean, you have to apply for most of these programs, and they are competitive. So, most of our students do well in the competing for those spots, especially if they start looking early. But even if you don't get into the first choice program, but you can find a similar program that works better with your, family schedule for the summer, making that change once you've been given the grant is very easy to do. You just have to let us know, especially if it's comparable in price. So someone else asked if it's okay to apply for multiple programs. I'm trying to make sure I understand the question. I mean, it is definitely within our department fine to apply for the trip and apply for a Wilson grant for summer study, as long as, of course, they don't overlap in terms of dates. If they're applying for Wilson grants in other departments, the departments have different views about whether or not they will grant it if you're getting a grant in another department. I mean, we've been very open about that. I mean, especially, again, it comes down to your schedule and if you can work out the time for more than one Wilson grant. Some of the travels overlap, so it's rarely possible that you could do two different trips in the summer. Am I answering the question? We've never given two grants in Wilson Arts grants to the same person in the same summer. It is possible to get them in different years. In general, the bigger programs, we tend to encourage older students to participate in. The bigger costs, the bigger price tag programs, and encourage younger students to do options that are closer to home and therefore less expensive. If you got room and board involved anywhere, it's going to be a pretty pricey program, especially. And we don't tend to cover travel costs because we're trying to make sure as many people as possible get to participate in their in the program that they're looking at, so that they have that opportunity for enrichment and growth. Did I answer? Yeah.
Yes, you did. That answers the question, I think, from one side, which is just logistically and from the school standpoint, can you participate in more than one program? I think I get your answer, but I guess just in terms of being a candidate and going through the application process, would you recommend applying for more than one program in case you're not admitted to one?
I would. I mean, yeah. I mean, oftentimes, the kids will pick maybe their top two that they're interested in and that work with their family schedule. Apply for both.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and somewhat if it's a very competitive program and we can help you know whether that's the case. I mean, we used to participate in the Cherubs program at Northwestern. It's really hard now to get into the Cherubs program at Northwestern. So if that's what you're shooting for, shoot for it, but also have a backup plan. And there are plenty of excellent other programs that are not quite as competitive to get into. Where you don't have to have a 4.0 GPA and have been in half a dozen shows. Most of the other programs are much less competitive than that.
And when you're looking for a program, I would encourage students or parents to go through and look at the exhibition that's on display. Each student who goes on a program, part of the requirement is to then share that experience. So they've written a reflection, shared photos or artwork about that experience, including the cultural history trip. So you can get a sense of what was done this past year, but also your teachers have a lot of knowledge about all those programs that are out there too.
To add to that, I mean, please see the exhibit. And second of all, I was remembering our conversation last year, and we had two museums said this signed on for it. I can't imagine it going to any other program. So and they were not programs that were on the original list. They had started with and then it didn't work out for the dates that they had available in the summer, and they found one that did work for the dates and turned out to be great. It just means you need to do a little bit more vetting of those programs because we're less familiar with them. But that is an interesting consideration for parents. I mean, I think you should make sure, with us, if we know, or with the program itself, what is the supervision level of this program by adults? I would ask that question if my job was going. So. Well, please follow up with any of the teachers who are here or the students that students who are on the call to find out more about these experiences, and let us know if you have questions that come up later about the application process or programs to choose. There are film and video programs. I need to look more into the video ones. I know more about film programs. And there's a wonderful one in Vermont that somebody went to a couple of years ago. There's several in playwriting or screenplay writing. So let me know if those are interesting to you. And Barry McAllister, who heads up our video program, may know of video programs. I know he's gone to several in New York. So but we can look into more. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Yeah, I understand. Thanks for joining us and being a part of the conversations. Thanks especially to the teachers who are here. I really appreciate it. And to Edwin and Charlie and Billy and Alexander for sharing their experiences. Hope everybody has a safe and wonderful fall break. Get some rest. Have some fun. Bye. Take care.